It's time for the big clash between Hikaru Nakamura and Magnus Carlsen. They played a very quick draw in their classical game, and now we are into the Armageddon. This is the second time they clash against each other in Norway Chess. In the first encounter, it was a draw in classical, and Hikaru had beaten Magnus in their Armageddon game. And now Magnus has to win on demand with white pieces. Hikaru has black here, 7 minutes for him, 10 minutes to Magnus Carlsen. Magnus adjusting his pieces. Before the game, they both spoke about things which was like, Magnus was like, I don't know why I'm playing classical chess. Hikaru was like, this might well be the last time Magnus and I will play against each other in classical chess. And it was like everyone is now looking forward to this game. So d4 by Magnus, d5 by Hikaru, c4, and we have the Slough defense on the board with c6. Knight comes out to f3, knight to f6, knight c3, and Hikaru now can take the pawn here. He did do that against Arjun as well. g3 played here, and now Hikaru goes and saves the pawn with b5. Bishop comes to g2 on this long diagonal. Sometimes the knight could jump in the center, take this pawn, opening up the bishop. He pushes his pawn to e6. White castles here, and I believe black can play just simply bishop b7. Hikaru trying to recollect his analysis. You have to be very accurate here because you are lagging behind in development. Magnus moves with his knight. Now the threat is knight takes b5. The best move is a6 here, but he goes queen c8. A small inaccuracy, I must say, because later on, as we will see in the game, b3. Now, if you take queen b3 is good compensation. So he goes b4 here, Hikaru, knight a4. And in many positions, it's not so easy now to play your pawn to a5 because knight b6 forks these two pieces. So Magnus now clearly better because bishop b4, this pawn is weak. The king is still in the center. Bishop a3, very nice move. Offering a trade. If you take here, I can take back and then take this pawn. So Hikaru goes a5 now. Now that his b6 square is guarded by his knight. But Magnus now plays a beautiful move, knight takes c3. The point being, if you take here, I go knight c4, attacking this d6 square. So wonderful tactical vision by Magnus shown there. Castles played by Hikaru. And now bishop takes bishop, pawn takes, and the material is even. So with equal material, you see that Magnus has a much superior structure, and that structure is because this pawn on c6 is a weakness, and knight goes here looking at the c5 square. You can't play yet c5 because bishop b7 simply drops a pawn. So bishop a6 played, queen d2, bishop b5. Now the e2 pawn is hanging, so it's not so easy to pick this up. Rook c1 played, rook a6, defending the c6 pawn. And e3, very nice move. Magnus's structure is beautiful. This is a risk-free advantage to Magnus. Queen a8 by Hikaru. He's trying to put pressure on the a4 pawn, and Magnus is like, thank you so much, Hikaru, for the free pawn. But knight b6, if you take here, rook a1 is hanging. But Magnus finds this beautiful move. If knight a4, there is rook b5. So knight d5 played by Hikaru very quickly. Magnus chops off, and Hikaru is like, interesting, because now your light squares are a bit weak, and I do have the light squared bishop. The rook comes back to c1. Magnus is a pawn up and has a good structure, but the king is a bit weak, and you can already start attacking it with h4, h5, h4. Hikaru has 2 minutes 51 seconds. Magnus has 3 minutes 3 seconds. It's a very evenly poised position in a sense that, black does have chances now. h5 played, and Magnus plays h4. Now such a move is stopping the h pawn from moving forward, but does create so many weaknesses. And Hikaru thinking about how exactly can he get the queen into the zone. One idea is queen c8, coming to g4. Thinking here, he goes rook e8. A useful move by Hikaru. 2 minutes for Hikaru Nakamura, 2 minutes 59 seconds for Magnus. He would love to get his knight back into the game, but it's pinned. So he brings his queen to c3, defending the rook, maybe preparing knight c5 to trade off few things there. And now Hikaru has this crazy idea at some point to break with g5 takes and h4, you know, just blasting open the white king. Knight c5 takes the rook, and boom! Hikaru is on the ball. Beautiful play by Hikaru Nakamura. Love it. Takes h4. Let's go. Let's open up more lines. Plays it. And Magnus in super trouble, and I love how Hikaru's playing here with so much energy. Suddenly the knight on c5 is beautifully placed, but doing nothing much here because the king side is on fire. The queen is ready to enter. The bishop could be part of it. Magnus tries to defend this way, gives up a pawn. He's like, at least my queen can join the defense. Rook comes in. Queen g4 played by Hikaru. And the position is now even. The game shifted so quickly here. Super quick. And Magnus goes queen to e3. He takes with the pawn. Pawn takes. And now king g7. Trying to get the rook from the h file. 2 minutes for Magnus now. How does he play this position is the big question. Does he go queen f4, offering a trade of queens? It's not a bad idea to take, but then the e pawn will reach e2. Is that super dangerous? Not so sure. The other idea is to go king g2, and if rook h8, can you go rook h1? There could be some queen f3 ideas. Oh my goodness, look at this line. King g2, rook h8. If rook h1, a big blunder. I have check, takes, and this pawn queens after the rook trade. Okay, he goes king g2. Man, is Magnus going to blunder here with rook h1? Not really. He picks up the e pawn, and for Hikaru, very important now to take the g5 pawn. The position remains sharp. Magnus could go into an endgame, pawn down, but one thing that Hikaru mustn't do here is give this check. It looks tempting, but after king f3, there's nothing much happening. The queen is offside. Queen e5 check is coming. It's just lost. But he plays it. Oh my goodness, it's a massive blunder. King f3, and Hikaru immediately shaking his head. He's like, maybe I missed something here. Bishop f1 was his idea, to start checking here with the queen or the bishop. However, this doesn't work because of queen e5 check and king moving up, or directly king f4. This is a very, very tough move to make for Magnus because somehow he has to move ahead with his king, but he has to realize that there are no checks here, nowhere. There are no checks anywhere, and king f4 is an excellent move. You can see Magnus thinking here, finds king f4, and Hikaru zones in. He's like, no way is the king on f4 going to be safe. Come on, this is not working out. It's amazing to see Hikaru's expressions here, but as his time runs low, as he goes below a minute, there's nothing here. It's like Magnus has seen it all, and Hikaru is utterly lost because, you know, you go queen e5 check, push the king behind, knight e4 and knight f6 is almost a mate with all these pieces, and also white is 2 pawns up. So queen h2 played, trying to give some checks here. I don't know exactly what's the plan because I can simply chop the bishop off. He goes, I understand. His plan was if rook takes, there was rook h4 check because this is pinned and you would win the queen. That's why Magnus first gave a check and now takes it. So beautiful timing here by Magnus. If rook h4 check, now just king e3 and it's all safe. And Hikaru's time, by the way, 30 seconds on the clock here. He needs to move, but I think he knows it that he is lost already. He goes queen g2, attacking the rook, hoping for some final chance. Rook a1, trying to come in to checkmate. There's one check left in the position, but nothing more after king g4. And Magnus looks at the clock. 40 moves are done. Hikaru has very little time here, and he resigns with a smile on his face. Very intense game between Magnus and Hikaru, and I love how they both are super calm after this. And he says instead of queen h3, just take queen g5 and the position should be fine. Magnus, of course, assessed that position really well. Hikaru played so well in this game, this entire idea with h5, g5, h4, but in the end couldn't manage to keep it accurately altogether.